Welcome to The Dead Life. I'm Allison DuBois, your expert guide into the paranormal realm. Today on The Dead Life, I have Joe in studio to talk with me about grief, the one ingredient in life that everyone will experience and are seldom prepared to face. If you want to leave me a message that might be shared on a future episode of The Dead Life and my Love Me, Love Me Not relationship segment, leave it at 802-DEAD-811. That's 802-332-3811. You can follow me on Instagram at Medium Allison, on my Facebook fan page, and you can binge on my YouTube videos to watch videos including readings and episodes of The Dead Life. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to book a reading with me, go to AllisonDuBois.com or email us at booking@AllisonDuBois.com. Well, Joe, I wanted you on today because you and I have navigated grief together. And I think you have a great male perspective on death because I don't care what people say, men and women are different creatures and we process things differently. So when we go through grief, men tend to keep it inside. In my experience with people that I read, they bottle it up, they try and be strong. And women tend to express themselves more. And because they're the mother, they carried the child, they want to die on the inside. You know, they die on the inside and they kind of want to be with their child. Not that the dad doesn't, but the dad deals with it differently.
I think, I mean, you're absolutely right. And boys are taught, you know, as young men to be strong and be there for, you know, the family and take care of people and let your emotions, you know, deal with your emotions on your own term, you know, on your own time later. Yeah.
And to take care of the family financially and make sure that your wife's okay. So yeah, that's my experience too with the readings. And I just wanted to have you on so we have both sides, both perspectives. So the reason I brought up this topic and I wanted to talk about it is because last week, my friend, I guess he's not my friend, he's my cousin Jerry by marriage. He passed unexpectedly. And a few months ago, I had decided I really needed to go to the Helping Parents Heal conference that was coming here to Arizona, run by Mark Ireland, a friend of the show and a friend of ours. And I just felt like I had to be there and I didn't know why. And then Mark told me Jerry was going and I was really excited. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen him in a few years because we live in different states. This will be great. I'm going to go to the conference. I'm going to get to have lunch with him and hang out with my cousin. And last week he went into the hospital for an upper respiratory infection. And that was the text I got on Tuesday. And by the time Friday rolled around, he was gone.
Right.
And so I really needed to be at that conference, not just for me, but for him, because I know how much the paranormal and the study of it means to him. And so I wanted to sort of represent, but also I knew he'd be there and I wanted to be there too.
Right.
I knew he was there in spirit. And it was just so strange to the point where they had to take his badge away that was on the table at check-in, you know. That's how recently he had passed before the event.
Just days. Yeah.
Right. So we met some really amazing people there. I met Dr. Jeff O'Driscoll, who's a healer. He's going to be coming on in the next few weeks. So, and then I had Sue Frederick on the show before, and I met her in person for the first time, which was really exciting. She is an intuitive and master numerologist. So Sue Frederick, I got her book at the bookstore. I was very excited about this.
Right in the middle, yeah.
So for all of you that are looking to understand numerology and are like, what? Go get her book. It'll help you to understand it and you can figure out your own numbers because we already know ours.
And the doctor is also an ER doctor. So I'm really curious. I can't wait for that interview because he said he's experienced, just like the doulas, but he's been there.
Seen the spirit leave the
body. And, what a fascinating perspective.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I'm looking forward to seeing him again and talking with him. I was very conflicted when I was meeting some of the people that I was meeting because imagine a medium and there were actually many mediums that were at the conference,
Mm-hmm.
and but in a room full of all parents who've lost children.
Right.
It was all parents who'd lost children because it was Helping Parents Heal as the organization. You can get information on it at helpingparentsheal.org.
Mm-hmm.
And that is in my opinion, the deepest wound when it comes to going through the pain of loss. And that's just my opinion. Those people suffer
It's
more.
an unnatural loss in that a parent shouldn't. It's just, it doesn't
shouldn't
feel
bury your
right.
child.
You shouldn't bury a child. And you can see the pain. You can feel the pain in the room. And when you come across a parent that's lost a child, they're changed. You can tell it takes a long time to heal, if ever.
Well, and they'll have different energies. And I wanted to talk about this because some of the people, and obviously I've read many of them over the years because I've done over 10,000 readings. So I've done quite a few. But you get some who are at a place in life where they're super spiritual and they're like, I know my son or my daughter's with me and I talk to them every day. And it's not that they don't miss them, but there's such a spiritual connection between them, such a soul connection that they don't seem to be going through the suffering because their child is still here and they know that their child is part of their life still, that they can hear them, they can talk to them, that they can joke with them, that they can do things for them. They include them in their daily life. And then I'll see the people that are going through life, and both sides are understandable as to what your reaction might be, but holding their breath going through life. They're in so much pain and they died. And the reason I titled this episode, Buried Where I Stand, is because it's almost as if they died on the spot when they got the call that their child died. Like they were buried right then.
Right.
Because they died with the child and they will never be the same. And I think it's true that when you lose someone, you're never quite the same, but we're supposed to take the energy traits of that person and incorporate them into ourselves and our own lives. And not only to honor them, but I almost see people in our lives that love us as passing the baton, almost like a physical relay through the physical world of running a race and passing the baton. And they're passing you all of their best moments, their love, their memories, their triumphs, their defeats, and they're just passing it on to you and saying, learn from me. And so I think the people that come in and out of our lives are supposed to become a part of us in death. I don't know what you think of that as a astrophysicist perspective, but that's how I see it, is them passing their energy to us.
I'm starting to understand how you feel. Everybody asks you these spiritual questions because, you're the medium. And now I guess I'm the astrophysicist to ask these things about spiritual astrophysics. Well, if we're frequencies and we're combining, then when you put two frequencies together, they make a third. And that third would make sense to be, forever changed, each frequency. So when one of them goes away, it'll leave part of the first one, right?
Well, don't ask me. I'm just telling you what I've experienced.
You threw me a curveball. I wasn't, the semester is back and homework started, but I didn't know I was going to have it today.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I just, I was just curious.
It's a fascinating concept, but on an emotional level, sure. We all know when you suffer the heartbreak, but you suffer the loss, but you're changed. You have that person in you forever.
It's almost as if your energy shifts and you adapt to their energy. And some parents adapt more quickly and some parents take a lot longer to get there. And some parents never get there.
Yeah.
They just want to die and be with the child. And when I bring the children through, the children recognize that they don't want our life to cease because theirs in the physical world did. So many of the children that I bring through are like, I want you to do this for me. If you want to do something because you love me, go swimming and jump off the cliffs in Hawaii, live life large and take risks in life. And then when you die, you can tell me all about it. And I'll tell you about all the times that I was there with you, standing next to you in those moments. I'll show you how I was there, how I was still part of your reality. And I think that's really beautiful that they do want us to live. It's almost as if they're our coach and they're running behind us going, come on, let's go, pick it up. And they want you to do better than you did before because they have that unique perspective of being in spirit now, where they see the totality of life and the things that we waste our time on and what we get hung up on and what's minutia in life and what doesn't matter at all. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they have this clarity and they're like, I have to tell the people I love. Mm-hmm. And so they come through and they try and guide you and tell you what they need you to know. And some people will take that information and run with it. And I'm seeing more parents do that now, which makes me very happy. Mm-hmm. They've come a long way in the openness to communicating with the other side. And I think that's helping a lot. And then you'll have the parents that want to hold on to their grief and they want to hold on to the last time the child was alive, which is when they were dying, which absolutely destroys you from the inside out. And they hold on to that because it's the last time their child breathed, the last time the child that they knew was in the physical realm. And so they hold on to the pain because it's all they have. And it destroys them. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying don't suffer, don't hurt, because I suffered and hurt when my dad passed. And sometimes it still rears its ugly head. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is that you want to laugh and smile thinking of them more often than you cry.
Mm-hmm. You just brought up your dad. That was a very hard time to get through the grief. And that, in a sense, you had to go through it so that you could relate to people that you bring through. I think the thing that's important maybe to share is, how did you get through? I know what you did, but how long did it take? How did you get through the grief and make it a positive thing rather than having it destroy you?
It actually took me time.
Yeah.
And
years, actually.
And that's why I tell just everyday people, like, look, I'm a medium. I predicted my father's death. I sent him to all these doctors to try and save him and change the course of his passing. I tried to interfere with the natural order and his path. And the other side taught me a huge lesson that I wasn't that strong. And that it was never in my hands. And I received that. I think what started helping me process it, and it wasn't until I got to this point, is when I started doing readings for my dad and including him in the readings as well, where I'd say, Dad, can you focus the dead's energy and turn up their volume? And he'd adjust their energy so that I could hear them more easily in the readings. And so he acted as sort of a referee in the process. And it really does help, and he still does. But I would do readings for him. And what I mean by that is, if I'm bringing through somebody's dad, I gave it everything I had as though my dad's life depended on it. I did it as though I was doing it for my father. And so when I put that energy into it, obviously I gave it everything I had. But it also made me really happy because they're great readings. So people were really, blown away and feeling good about it. But as soon as my client laughs because of something the dead said in a joke to them or reminding them of a memory that was funny, I just feel like I'm in it. I'm like, that's it. That's a magic. Their energy just shifted in that moment. And so when that happens and you see their face, like color comes back into it, their energy lightens, all of a sudden they're a different person than they were when they walked in, through my door. And that's what fueled me to keep doing it. I'm like, I can't do anything about my pain right now because I'm in the raw stages. I'm in the throes of it, but I can do something about her pain, or I can do something about his pain, and I can help there. And so the more that I was doing that, the more I felt joy connected to my dad and happiness. I felt levity. I felt a lightness connected to him instead of his death and not being able to prevent it, him not being there. I was 30 and that the rest of my life, there'd be no more memories. Like all of that was just so much to wrap my mind around. And, you know, sometimes we still feel that way. I mean, it's like we got gypped.
Right.
We see people in they're like 70 with their moms who are in their 90s.
Right.
And they're like, oh, you know, and they're talking about, oh, I got to take her to the doctor and do this and that. It's like, at least you have her.
Right.
Like we haven't had our dads, me since 30 and you since what, 23? So I guess it's just perspective and what your experience is, but we went through that together. So I met you like 3 months after your dad died. You never talked about it. So you did what I've noticed men do, and they bottle it up. They just keep it inside, and your brothers didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about it. And I just think
it wasn't even until your dad died, which was 10 years later, that I started to deal with it.
Process it.
Right?
Yeah. No, I noticed that when my dad died, you started falling apart because my dad was the closest thing you'd had to a dad since your dad died. And my dad was a totally different guy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, your dad was like an MIT chemical engineer. My dad's a professional ballroom dancer. My dad was all about dad jokes, and your dad was sort of just the facts, ma'am. You know, it was just like totally different. So I think it was nice for you to have that male influence in your life where he was just sort of fun and lighthearted. And used to yell at me for raising my voice at Aurora, when our oldest daughter, when she was a toddler, and I'm losing my mind, ripping my hair out. Grandparents don't stress that stuff. Parents do. I'm like, come back here. He's like, Mom, take it easy. Lighten up. Not a big deal. And
he was a great guy.
He took her to play games. You know, he was just that guy. So I watched you go through it. So in a way, we were both going through it, but you were trying to be strong for me at the same time. So for people who are dealing with loss, the more you throw yourself into helping other people who have who are walking your path and just beginning that path, the more you're going to feel engaged with spirit and with the other side, the more communication you'll get, the more the pain slips from inside of you, and the less you'll think about the death. You'll think more about their life, like that moment I just shared about my dad, you know, and if you can do that, you heal and you start feeling pulled forward in time through the days in a much nicer, easier way, and feeling connected to them more every day. So that's the better way to move through grief. And I know that in my book, Into the Dark, which I love that book. The dark being where the living are, where the grieving are, not where the dead are. People always think it's where the dead are. So I titled it Into the Dark for that reason. And it lists the 5 original steps of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, which is a big one. We always make that deal with God. Depression, which I went through in the form of, you know, a beer and a shot to try and numb the pain. Not a time in my life I like to look back on, but it was just, that's what depression sometimes looks like in people when you can't process the pain. And then finally you get to acceptance, but I'm a medium who can communicate with the other side and talk to the dead. And this isn't about judging people and how they deal with their loss either. When I counsel people who have lost someone, I say, fall apart, do what you need to do. Don't listen to the jerk out there that's like, oh my God, you had too many glasses of wine, or you did this or you did that. It's like, you can just shut the fuck up, because you're not going through what I'm going through, and you're not walking my path, and I don't need your 2 cents because I don't care what you think. And grief is a great energy in centering people and making you see what matters in life and what doesn't. And all of a sudden, you really don't care what other people think. And so you'll go through this part of grief where you're just curt with people because you don't have time for that. You're like, I've been to hell and back. I don't have time for what you're talking about. Your tie doesn't match your jacket. I don't care. I don't care. And so you go through that as well, which is an interesting part of the 5 stages of grief. The point I was making when I was pointing out, I'm a medium, I can talk to the other side. And it took me 4 years to communicate with my dad. And I had to have my friend Lori Campbell bring him through because 9 times out of 10, people with abilities, if you're too close to us, we can't read you right. You need a second party that's impartial. And so when it came to my dad, I needed her to bring him through, and Lori's dad had died. So I brought her dad through for her, and we just sort of exchanged did it for one another. But I just want people out there that don't have abilities to understand or that don't get a lot of communication. It's not because they don't love you. It's not because they're not there. It's because you're blocked by pain because you've been put through an emotional and spiritual shredder. And it's going to take you time to heal, and that's okay. You take your time and you do what you need to do to feel okay. Try and stay constructive if you can. I had a support system that was very helpful, but more people go down I'm going to listen to dark music rabbit hole than I can count. And we'll listen to sad songs just to feel it because we almost want to drive the pain in deeper to get it out. It's almost like we're trying to cry all our tears out. So you listen to these super sad songs just to let it go. And that's okay as long as it's not like destructive.
Yeah. And if there's a point to it, like, you can, if you fall down the hole and keep going,
sure,
that's something to be cautious about. But don't be afraid to fall in the hole in the first place because that's part of life.
It's part of the healing, actually. Yeah. And I have so many dads that come through that will say, you tell my son not to use my grief as an excuse for his being destructive. That is not okay. And I expect more from him. I need more from him. And so the dads do come through very curtly about, don't use me as your excuse to fail. That's what they say. Right. And I've heard that quite a bit. So I wanted to put that out there. But for those of you that, feel like they're not around or you can't feel them as much as you'd like to or hear them as much as you would like to, it's not that they're not around. It's just going to take you time for some of the wounds to heal so that the part of you that can't let go that they're dead in the physical world, that when the phone rings, you still think it might be them. When the doorbell rings, you think, Christmas time, Dad, and you're thinking of him walking through the door. And then there's like this partial part of a second reminder that just says, Dad's not here anymore. He's not coming through the door. And then you grieve again. And so we do this in waves over and over again. As long as part of us, and especially with a parent that died, holds on to that childlike, they're invincible and they're still here in the physical world. When that last part of you lets go of that and you could really admit to yourself, not just practically in your mind, but like spiritually, okay, he's not going to walk through the door. Doesn't mean I can't save him a chair for Thanksgiving dinner and he won't sit at the table and share that moment with the family. And we can't share stories about him so that he can take part in our festivities. Once you get to that point, you'll get more communication. So after 4 years, I finally caught my dad's reflection in a shop window. He loved shopping, so it makes sense. And he was just standing behind me. Yeah, just standing behind me. And I just stared in the window because I knew as soon as I turned around or looked away, he'd be gone. Right. And that's exactly what happens. They'll hold your gaze. And as soon as you try and acknowledge them, they're like, no.
Because your brain gets into it.
That's true.
When your heart's in it, you can see them all day long, but the brain.
You become more of a mental being.
Right.
Also, they need you to just be able to let them run the show. So you have to trust them and have faith in them. So Into the Dark's a really good book for people going through grief, but I added a 6th stage because I looked at these 5 stages. I'm like, that's not it. There's a 6th stage reconnection. And I can't stress it enough. Once you get to reconnection and you're able to communicate with them and you start seeing them and you're getting visits, you've run the gamut of everything. And you're in the process of healing. Like you're there. So for any of you who have had communication with the other side, somebody who's passed that you love, you've started having visits from them and hearing them in your mind, where you're like, Dad would love this. And you can always hear him respond, or, him being like, I'm the one that told you to go get a sub today. Cause for me, cause I love sub sandwiches. Once you get to that place, you're on your journey with them. Then the communication is up to you to continue it and take some time, meditate in your room, pad of paper, pencil, and just close your eyes and say, Mom, Dad, son, daughter, whoever they are to you, just say, I'm ready for a visit. And just smile and close your eyes and let them talk to you. Just let them tell you what they need you to know.
And do they have to wait listen. A certain amount of time?
In the beginning, the person closest to the dead, and this is an important distinction, the person closest to the dead will be the last one to have contact, almost always.
So it's the living person that needs the time, not the...
It's the living person. Yeah. The dead could come through. I make people wait 6 months after a passing before I'll read them, because you're so raw in the beginning and time needs to pass so that they can talk about what they've seen in your life since they died. So I find 6 months to be a good waiting period for the person to be able to have gone through some of those stages of grief, and to be able to sort of pay attention to the reading and be a part of it, and also not be on medication to get through daily life.
Right. That's an important point, that having acceptance is really critical before you have a reading, because if you haven't accepted it, then as soon as they start talking, your brain will kind of shut down, because it's like, wait, how could they be talking if they're not dead? And they are, it's a hard cycle.
Well, it is a hard cycle, and it's very hard to separate ourselves intellectually from ourselves spiritually, emotionally. And we've got a lot of layers. We're human beings, some of us more complicated than others. Hello. But, we deal with our grief in the way we need to. Take kickboxing, beat the hell out of a coach. I mean, that's a good constructive way to process grief. There are ways. Organize. We're in Virgo right now. Organize. If you haven't gone through your loved one's stuff, now's the time. Have some friends over, have a little, soiree for that person, put their pictures up and say, all right, we're going to do a deep dive, all of us together. We're going to organize everything, and we're going to take the things that person loved, and we're going to make albums out of it, and blankets and t-shirts and teddy bears for the bed out of their t-shirts. And we're going to celebrate them and incorporate them in our lives. There should be like an incorporate them back into your life party.
There you go.
I like that.
I like it.
But it's a good idea to have people with you when you go through such emotional mementos, because you're going to come across Father's Day cards, for instance, from when you were really little that you didn't know they kept. And it's just good to have somebody there as support for you when you do that. Because I went through it alone when I went through my dad's things, and it was painful.
Yeah.
So incorporate you back into my life party. Get some chips and dip. Get some cocktails. Invite your closest peeps over, and go through things and get them where they need to be, and to the people who would appreciate them the most. Don't hold on to everything selfishly. Like if there's stuff that really doesn't pertain to you, let that person have it if they want it. That's important. So the energy of an 8-year right now is transformation. You're starting to see some of the passings that happen in transformation, because transformation is also Scorpio. It's the 8th house of the zodiac. That's the 8-year. You add up the numbers in 2024, totals 8. So that's how they come to it. Want to learn more about it? Sacred numerology, Sue Frederick. Make yourself a master of numerology yourself. So anyways, The 8-year, we're going to be going through it. So everyone's going through it right now. It's painful. It's like being born. Like it's kind of ugly. It hurts, but it's beautiful. And we want to remember it. We're learning. But learning hurts because it's like learning a lesson, but you got spanked but now I know better. And so I'm watching everybody go through this emotional blender right now. It's kind of crazy.
Oh, I thought you meant when you're born, you get spanked. Welcome to the world.
That's true. Well, not now. They're afraid they'll hurt your feelings. I'm just kidding. Now they probably still spank you.
They got to get those lungs working.
Yeah. And 2025 is going to be a 9-year. 2025, add up the numbers in it, totals 9. So a 9 year's a year of endings. And endings can be a good thing or it can be painful. But either way, it's there to teach us something. So I want you all to be prepared for this. And the reason I wanted to do an episode on grief is I want you to think ahead of time of what that would look like. Because there are people out there watching this right now who've never lost anyone, who haven't been through grief, and they don't understand other people's pain. And you're going to learn that lesson now. And then through 2025, you'll be on our team where we've been through it. And that's what it feels like.
When was the last 8, 9?
The last 9 year was 2016, which is when all the celebrities died. And the posthumous names at the end of the Academy Awards and the Grammys was just insane in the entertainment industry. But a lot of people died in 2016. Now, it was also the end of an administration, and we got a new president. At that time. And so it was like a new cycle, a new beginning, a new financial standing in our country where we actually had money, which was kind of nice. So this is going to be that was the last time we had a 9-year. And now we're having a 9-year again in 2025. People keep asking questions like, well, he came in 2016. So could happen for 2025. Seems to be his energy.
Right.
So the 9-year in 2025, you're going to see people passing that are elderly or barely hanging on, and some deaths will come out of left field. I want you to be prepared for this. In how you're going to handle it, have some sort of a mental plan. I take kickboxing. I take a couple weeks off work. I'm going to buffer myself with the right people. That's so important.
Right.
Maybe even the elderly, sitting down with them, filming some videos of them, asking them questions of things you won't be able to ask them once they've passed. Make sure you've got a plan on what they want to do after they've died. Like, what music do they want at their funeral? What food do you want served at your wake? What do you want it to be like? And talk about these things, because it's coming, and it's actually already here, because the 8-year of transformation will also bring death. But the 9-year of endings takes swiftly. It will be a swift sweep. And but it's also good because it's going to be the end of relationships that don't serve you. Friendships go away. Divorce, you're seeing it already. That's happening. So you're going to see that leave your life, which is a good thing because it doesn't serve you. So even though it's painful, doesn't serve you, this is your life getting on track in a new way. So with every ending year is new beginnings. So keep that in mind. It's also going to end jobs that don't serve people. It's going to end addictions for some people. Some people that you thought would never get clean will. So 2025 can be a really hopeful year for people who just are sick of it and they want a better life, and they're going to fight harder, work harder, do more. And some of those people are just going to give up those bad habits that don't serve them. So I think it's going to be a great year. It's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be a year of dust up, a 9-year. So if you want to know more, Sue Frederick, she knows more than I do.
You'll have to have her back on.
Yeah, well, she's coming on in the next couple of weeks. And if you want to book a reading with her, I think she's on my Instagram. I think I posted her link there. So I can't stress the benefit of grief support groups, empower numbers among the grieving. That can help you. So for anybody who knows parents suffering, send them to helpingparentsheal.org. There's also a a subsection of helpingparentsheal.org that's just for the dads, where it's the men supporting each other. And I really love that. So I just thought we should touch up on grief with 2025 coming and having gone to the Helping Parents Heal conference and losing my cousin Jerry Conser last week. So for those who didn't know him, what a guy.
Yeah.
He lived life large. He loved beautiful women, and he liked him a little young, but you know, he was a good guy, big heart, very spiritual. When I was 13, I went to his house in Texas. He had a swimming pool shaped like the state of Texas.
Of course he did.
Like he was just the coolest. So, Jerry, you'll be missed in this realm, but God, I know you're partying in the other realm, and so many people that missed you. So, tip of the hat to Jerry, and thank you, Joe, for being here and going through grief with me. Thank you to my listeners for tuning in. You can catch me next Tuesday for a fresh episode of The Dead Life. I'm Allison DuBois. This is The Dead Life. And to all of my believers out there, don't stop believing.
Join us next week on The Dead Life. And don't forget to subscribe now to get notified of every new episode.